continuously provide with glucose? The brain. So, if I break down fat, I have products that I can use. But what about this breaking down of protein? Is that good or bad?
Bad.
That is bad. When the body has to turn to breaking down proteins to make a glucose molecule, chances are death is not too far away. Because the way that the body wants to get materials, first, feed your body. It wants to be through consuming it. Second, it'll break down fats into fatty cells or pull it from glycogen stores and use it. The third and the last way that we ever want the body to get energy is breaking down protein. Why?
Because you can't restore muscle once it's been
It
consumed.
takes the most energy to break it down. It's not as easily accessible. It takes more like water and energy and everything to break down protein.
Proteins, when we think about their use in the body, first, the only product a cell can make is a protein. So I'm now affecting the function of all my cells. Then the area it's going to pull a protein from is my skeletal muscle. That means it is breaking down actin and myosin, which are used for muscle contraction. That does not build back up after a certain point, and the muscles waste away.
That's why you should get cortisol shots.
It's why you should not get cortisone shots.
Like repeatedly.
Actually, I wish someone had told me when I was in my early 20s and I blew a couple of discs out of my back, and that was their solution. Their solution was the cortisone shots. And back then, because of my age, okay, you weren't restricted. You're restricted now to pretty much 2 a year. Back then, we weren't. So, because I got it in the same hip every time for the shot, I now have wasting away of the bone and the tissue in my hip joint from those cortisone shots. Yeah, gotta love it. Now, when protein begins to break down, not only are we using products that should not in any way be used to make energy in the body, all right? And we're going to have wasting away. The waste that comes from breaking down proteins is very detrimental to the body. The kidneys can't handle that, and the kidneys will shut down. So it's very important that we get our fuels from other methods. But now, in cases such as this is going to be something that usually happens under stress conditions, and then under conditions when we may be in the fight or flight. All right? The goal, hopefully, is it restores, and we never reach the point of breaking down the proteins. What we're doing, if we're under a time of stress, you know how they say stress will kill you? It will, okay, if it's under too much of a chronic condition. And the tissues that are getting damaged from having to, whatever the case might be, whether we have had a trauma, whether it's something emotional, whatever the case might be, because most likely sleep's not occurring, or it's very disrupted, okay? And your tissues are not getting to repair like they should. So they're using it for repair also. Yes, these glucocorticoids have anti-inflammatory effects, and they do use them medicinally. Hopefully, they're learning that that does need to be restricted, all right, because of these effects right here, breaking down other tissues. Plus, when you use stuff like the cortisones, like the shots and so forth, it is affecting your immune system. Your immune system's getting suppressed, okay? So that's another bad side effect. The other part about these glucocorticoids are the androgens. This is pretty much the ones that are the sex steroids, but of those, it's very little estrogen, all right? It's going to be mostly what we think of for the male reproductive system, for the androgens. This is also going to be controlled by my adrenocorticotropic hormone, which is controlled in the hypothalamus by that corticotropin releasing hormone, the CRH. With the androgens, the major one, yeah, let's all say that together. Dehydroepiandrosterone, better known, DHEA. Ever heard of DHEA? No? Okay. DHEA? Oh. No, I have to look that one up. Mainly because of what it does. Look what it does. So if a female's taking it, I'm going to say that. Because DHEA, it turns it into forms of testosterone and dihydrotestosterone. So it's mostly for males. So I'm thinking there's a supplement that has similar letters, but they mean something different. I just can't remember what it is. Okay. Yeah. And it's a very important production of a material because it is basically, it is so important in the role, and look at this, of the male fetus development. Meaning, at the time egg and sperm meet, fertilization occurs, and then once the one cell becomes two, two becomes four, and we begin to create our germ layers, one of the important parts about fetal development is how chemicals of the mom's body, I wouldn't say attack, affect those cells. So if the offspring is supposed to be male, this one is important at the time of fetal development. Actually, it's an important one through life for men, for this particular hormone. Now, at puberty, this androgens, they are playing a part in both sexes for secondary sexual characteristics. What are secondary sex characteristics?
Hair.
The hair, the body hair, like the under the arms, genital area, the chest, production of the descending of the testes. So all of these are important characteristics. The estrogen one, okay, tad bit. Estradiol, sure you guys have heard of that. But when compared to the ovaries, this estrogen that gets produced is very small. It's a very small amount. But after menopause, it's the only source we have. Because menopause is when the ovaries stop functioning. That means no more estrogen production. As females, estrogen production is important. And this is the only source of it after menopause.
Is that why, like, after menopause, a lot of older women start getting a lot more facial hair?
Oh, yeah. Most definitely. Gotta love it. So, and yeah, it's like they, pop up overnight. So, a lot of times you'll hear this in certain medications, whether it be referring to something that women might be taking after menopause, or in relationship to, for example, birth control pills. Okay? So in the adrenal gland, the medulla and the cortex are not independent. We would think that because the medulla has those modified cells and they're getting synapsed on by a sympathetic fiber, and then the cortex getting these directions from these hormones, that these two are totally separate, but they're not. One can't survive without the other. Each one stimulates the other. For example, without cortisol, the medulla will atrophy. Some of the cells of the medulla actually extend into the cortex. Now, when something stressful occurs, meaning we activate that sympathetic nervous division, the medulla activates the cortex to release the hormones. So one cannot survive without the other. If one is not working, the other one will atrophy and die, and basically kill the organism. So they cannot work independent of each other. And this right here, you can see that they're trying to demonstrate the difference in the cellular makeup of the 1, 2, 3 zones. And then what you begin to see in the medulla, these little specialized cells that are present in the medulla. So the adrenal glands, they're pretty important. Definitely in the overall maintenance of homeostasis. The pancreas. What do we associate? What do you think of when you hear pancreas?
Insulin.
Think of insulin? Alcohol.
Like if you have like a acute pancreatitis.
Oh, the acute pancreatitis can come with it. That's right. I forgot about that. The insulin. Anything else come to mind? Huh? Bile. Because once again, this is one that has a dual nature.